Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of Freakshow Fights! Now, if you haven't watched the last episode, we will remind you of the rules. We only use canon things, as canon is hotly debated. I will try to use statements and such. Anti-feats aren't allowed, although if they're more common, we will bring them up. We want to use everything possible for this. Weighted categories, some categories and will matter more in a fight, but honestly, we won't be introducing these until a lot later. Do not bet on our matches unless you're old enough. At least try to be respectful and civil to others. If I'm wrong about something, just let me know. Obviously, power scaling is subjective, but like if I get something factually incorrect, let me know. I'm not infallible. Now that we have the rules settled, let's get into the analysis of both of our combatants to see who would win in a fight, in our opinion. The world of Inazuma 11 is crazy. In a world where grabbing or, well, kicking a soccer ball gives you powers beyond comprehension, one man makes this apparent more like none other. Aphroditemy, or Byron Love if you prefer the dub names, having an almost unknown origin, one might say only God knows his origin, being the captain of Zeus Junior High soccer team, a place where all the players seem to be of a divine origin, struck a deal with the man, the myth, the legend, Kageyama Reiji. You know this guy is bad news. His name literally means darkness, being the former manager of Teikoku Academy, the best team in the nation for 40 years straight, until they were defeated by our heroes of Raimon Junior High. Kageyama gave Zeus the perfect opportunity for revenge and victory, as they proceeded to humiliate Teikoku in a match so one-sided, so brutal, it could only be described as a divine crusade against a couple of ants. As Zeus advanced through the tournament, trampling over others, Avro even showed up directly to Raimon to block Fire Tornado with a singular finger. Fire Tornado has been calculated by a fellow YouTuber, Fate Devs, to have the force of over 100 billion newtons. That's over 10 times the force of the strongest atomic bombs. And this guy stopped the thing with a single finger for perspective. And I guess that segues into his techniques. In Inazuma 11, characters are capable of using super dimensional moves that not only apply to soccer but are universal, not even requiring a ball to use. And if they do, players are capable of creating balls out of thin air, like Unmei in the most recent game. His techniques include Heaven's Time, a move that stops time for approximately 13 seconds, then launches the target into orbit, and by orbit I mean the far reaches of space. And I thought stopping time was a bit excessively powerful. God knows, a move where he grows six wings, shoots the ball with so much power that not even the laws of physics in the universe cannot even begin to describe it. God Break, which is just God knows on steroids, and creates a shining light that surpasses even the stars. Make that noted for later. And finally, with Victory Road, he is capable of using the awakening ability Instant Burst, using spiritual energy that enhances his senses and allows him to see anything, enhances his power by several times and grants him immeasurable speed, although only for, well, a short burst of time, before needing a few minutes to recharge. And Afro isn't exactly an idiot, he's a tactical genius that rivals even Kido Yuto, a man described as having extra-dimensional vision and intelligence, and can see pretty much everything in someone by just looking at them. In other words, he's kind of good. And one final thing to note, Inazuma 11 techniques can evolve beyond their current state, increasing several times in power. Just wanted to let that be known, and with this power he lost. Even with this power he was capable of losing. Realizing his ignorance of his ways, Afro and the rest of his team decided to not repeat their past mistakes, breaking ties with Kageyama, and deciding to be the type of gods that walk the earth to try and coexist with humankind. But if you ever incur his divine wrath, prepare for a divine crusade. And now that we have our first contestant, let's move on to the second. The world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, well, bizarre. And we're not even talking about JoJo himself, or the 9 JoJos. 10? We are talking about him, Dio. Dio Brando, born a street rat in the slums of London, Dio was not exactly in the best living situation. And if you think that justifies him, no, it does not. As he moves into the Joestar household where he plans to kill his new father, take his fortune for himself, and also make his new brother, Jonathan Joestar's, life an actual living hell. From beating the shit out of him, to forcefully kissing his girlfriend, to setting his dog on fire. I told you this does not justify his background does not justify anything. He then stole an ancient stone mask his brother was using for a project and then used it to turn into a vampire. And in this bizarre series, vampires are a bit different from, you know, normal vampires. They're more sort of a superhuman, removing their body's natural limitations from being able to hear a heartbeat through the ground to being able to regenerate from almost anything short of pure annihilation, flying through the air, hypnosis. He can create mind-controlling flesh buds from his hair. He can freeze matter on contact, shoot lasers out of his eyes. But vampires have weaknesses. Not garlic, ultraviolet light, and when his brother learned Hamon, essentially magic sunlight karate, he was kind of screwed. So as a last-ditched effort, he cut off his own head, killed Jonathan on his wedding night, stuck his head onto Jonathan's body, then slept for an entire century in a coffin. He then, when he woke up, went to Egypt to try to take over the world by starting the Heaven Plan, but we will get to honestly whenever Poochie decides to show up as a contestant. After he was struck by a mystical arrow, he gained a stand, the embodiment of a user's life force, and since they are made of spiritual energies, only people who have stands or similar abilities can interact with, damage, and even see them. And Dio got the stand of all time, the world, a stand with immense power, speed, and the ability to stop time, albeit the physical power is limited to how far it can land a punch. So, not really that far. This stand is capable of using a lot of power. If we were to calculate its physical strength, it was capable of punch a similar stand, as in Stone Free. A stand with the exact same attack level was capable of punching meteors with force we have calculated by several sources to be about 10 billion newtons worth of force. That is a lot of force, and for how fast he can punch, the stand's Silver Chariot, a stand with equal speed to the world, was capable of attacking 1,500 times faster than the speed of light. Although the world kind of became his own enemy as Jotaro Kujo, a descendant of Jonathan, obtained the stand Star Platinum, being a stand that is nearly identical to the world, as Jotaro killed Dio. In a way, he died to the own ability he deemed to be invincible. Now that is what I call irony. Although Dio didn't die. I mean, he did. But he left behind a legacy. With followers all across the planet, Dio might have died, but his plans did not, as one of his successors was capable of reaching the so-called heaven he desired. But that is a story for a completely different day entirely. Now that we have our contestants set, let's see who would win this freak of a fight! And one last thing before we get to the setting. If you wish to support Freak Show fights, it would mean the world to us, no pun intended, if you liked, commented, and subscribed. I hate to be that person, but it does truly help. A special thanks to everyone who watched the pilot episode. Your time, again, no pun intended, means everything to me. Now, let us establish a setting for this audio drama. Showdown. While Afro was walking the streets of Tokyo, he encountered a blond man, Dio, who was informed by one of his subordinates of someone with an ability similar to his. As such, Dio went to investigate. As Dio introduced himself to the boy who would change everything and make everyone happy, Afro got completely unnerving and malicious vibes from this man. As from previous experiences, this does not bode well. As Afro prepared to fight this malicious stranger, Dio immediately began by using the world to stop time, as Aphrodite was capable of moving in stop time, proving Dio's hypothesis correct. As Aphrodite tried to run to gain some distance, as Dio began to chase, summoning a soccer ball, Aphrodite kicks it at Dio as he summons the world to punch it back as Aphrodite uses Heaven's time as time stopped, as Dio stunned Aphrodite, resumed time as Dio was blown back by a massive gust of wind, as Dio proceeds to use a laser attack to attempt to damage his assailant, succeeding in doing so as he regained his footing, calling forth the world as Aphrodite began to surge with power as he activated Instant Burst, allowing him to perceive the world using his heightened senses as Dio used his stand to punch Aphrodite, yelling Muda 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 Muda! As his opponent kicked back with equal speed and even more force as the world took damage. He proceeded to take damage as well before Aphrodite could shatter the world. His awakening ran out of juice as Dio proceeded to pummel his enemy as he then grabbed a conveniently placed rolled roller and crushed his enemy beneath it. Before he could do so with angelic grace, Aphrodite rose from the ground using his divine wings as he then yelled out, God, break! Before kicking a ball with energy with divine forces, Dio was powerless to do anything, and as the ball consumed him, proceeding to burn to his demise as the divine light burned him even more intense than any sunlight or human he has ever seen, as he vanishes into nothing, as Aphrodite decides to walk towards tomorrow, knowing that he was safe. KO! This was one temporal battle, so let's break this down into categories. First of all is physical stats. This is sort of several categories amounted into one, but it counts for 1 point. Both of them were capable of superhuman speed, but Afro was capable of using instant burst to completely outspeed Dio. His speed really only applies to his punches, more specifically the world's punches. The guy doesn't exactly have enhanced traveling speed, considering the fact he needed to use a car to get by. Unlike Aphrodite, who, despite the fact he isn't as fast as other characters from his series, he still has supernatural movement speed, so he potentially didn't even need to use instant burst to outspeed him. And now the other part of this category is power. Aphrodite's weakest strength feat is 10 times stronger than Dio's strongest. And since his strength and durability are relative, the same story goes for durability. And now we move on to the next category, their time stops. Dio is capable of stopping time for 9 seconds, with the world versus Aphrodite, whose weakest time stop clocks in about 13 seconds. Again, his weakest feat surpasses his opponent's strongest. And Heaven's time would work on Dio. The only reason Dio could move through his own time stop was because of the world's ability. One that would likely not work due to Heaven's time and the world working differently enough. Keyword likely. And Aphrodite just doesn't obey the laws of physics, so he wouldn't care about Dio's time stop. And the final category, their abilities in general. Dio has a lot of abilities. Almost all of them wouldn't work. Hypnosis doesn't work. Blood sucking requires physical contact. A lot of his abilities require physical contact. Dio Aphrodite could tank the lasers versus Dio, who would almost certainly be annihilated by any of his abilities. Heaven's time just doesn't stop time. It also launches a blast so intense it literally sends opponents to the far reaches of space. Now, we didn't have that in the fight. I think it would be very anticlimactic if it ended that early, but just know that. If the ultimate light form from JoJo's couldn't survive being sent to space, what's a measly little vampire gonna do? God knows and God break both attacks with universal potency, and God break even shines better than the stars, which Dio is weak to light. In other words, Aphrodite takes this. As well, Dio might have ruled the world, but what is the world compared to the heavens beyond? The winner is Aphrodite. Next episode on Freakshow Fights will be one circus of a match, as Kefka Palazzo and Marks from Kirby, not the communist guy, will be our next contestants. Stay tuned, comment and subscribe. Ugh! I feel like a sellout for saying that, and comment a matchup for our next season. I will choose 2 lucky matchups for that next season. And finally, kind of an off-topic rant. The reason this episode was canceled was just because of Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy. By canceled, I mean delayed. The Go Galaxy route in Inazuma 11 Victory Road, considering that Aphrodite got some new stuff in there, I think it would have been disingenuous to have not included it. Obviously, this is off topic and not even part of the script. I'm just going on a rant now. But genuinely, yeah, this matchup has become even more one-sided, considering that we've now seen Aphrodite, being capable of taking on beings who can surpass time, space, and dimensions. Just wanted you to know that. Anyways, see ya!